I'm Reverend Beverly Pryor, and I am going to do the whole show today. We're giving Jeannie Mother's Day off. Let's stand up here for a moment, because I want to acknowledge Jeannie, who has been the mother of this community through the pandemic. She's this church lady, but she's really been the de facto spiritual leader. She's stepped up hugely and done so many Sunday mornings online since we've come back together. It's just been, you have brought this community into your bosom and held them there with such love and compassion.
Yeah.
And while I wasn't here through all of it, I appreciate that you were, and of course Travis and Angel and all the other people who have stayed committed and participated.
Oh, yes.
And so we just want to honor Jeannie.
We're still here, y'all.
So let's give her a blessing. I didn't put a slide for this, but let's give her a blessing. Jeannie, we love you, we bless you, and we behold the Christ you are. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay, so that little moment of celebration and joy for Jeannie. So let's just take a moment and get centered in prayer, because I love to pray, and Unity is all about prayer. So let's close our eyes and just together, let's take a deep breath in and release. We just fall fully present into this moment, fully present and aware that our intention for this day is to be one. To feel connected, to know truth, and express as a community. We've all come here today both to be a blessing and to receive a blessing. And for this opportunity and so much more, we simply say thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. So together, let's say our opening statement that you see here on the screen. This is also the first of our 5 unity principles, just stated a little bit differently. There's only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe. God, the good, the omnipotent. God is always good, regardless of the circumstances. When we're experiencing something that doesn't feel like good, we're just not in alignment. We can realign ourselves. That's why we come together as a community, so we can look at each other and experience that realignment. Not just once a week, but whenever we can connect in through a phone call or a text or a message or some way to stay present with one another so that we know our oneness. Because this is why we're here, is to come back to that point in our soul's evolution where we know who we are. And we know that we are an expression, this is our second unity principle, we're an expression of this truth of oneness. Jeannie, I was going to ask you if you would read the daily word, but I forgot to do it. I have one. Would you read it?
Oh, sure.
Spur of the moment. Sorry about that.
All mothers everywhere. Mother's blessing is the daily word. The word mother brings to mind love, gentleness, nurturance, and compassion. Even if I did not experience these qualities from the woman who gave me life, I give thanks for them and everyone who has inspired me and touched my life. To my mother and everyone who has blessed me with a mother's care, I send you love. I say a prayer of thanks for your presence in my life, for the sacrifices you made to give me the opportunity to grow and learn. You taught me the power of love and gentleness and the strength found in giving. You taught me above all to be true to myself. You are a leader who has taught me to lead by example. I send you thoughts of infinite love and peace as I join with others in gratitude and joy today. From Proverbs, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Mother's blessing.
So I just borrowed the daily word affirmation, Mother's Blessing, for the talk title today. And Mother's Blessing is not about that biological mother, right? It's about the energy of nurturing and support and love. And some of us are fortunate enough to have that from our biological mothers, and some of us need to get it other places. And it doesn't have to be a female, it doesn't have to be a relative, it can be someone anywhere. I know for me, I don't have biological children, but I have been a nurturing, supportive, encouraging influence to many people. And I have that knowing, I've had that affirmed, and one friend of mine says, I need your mommy hugs. Because a mommy hug is that full on, I'm not letting go until you're ready hug, you know? It's with the heart open. But again, that may not be your mommy experience. So if you're having struggles in this moment, talking about the ideal mom, just know we're not talking about one particular person. We're talking about a collective of qualities that we know as motherly and nurturing, the mother love. But happy Mother's Day to everyone in this room and anyone out there who's listening in the virtual world. Again, whether you're male or female, whether you have children or not, you are mother love. You are that core of love that comes from the Christ consciousness. And you can call upon that mother love anytime to share it with someone else, or even for yourself. If you've ever done inner child work, those of you who've been through therapy, me being one of them, inner child work is about nurturing that child within you who maybe didn't get it from that person. We're told as we're growing up, this is your mother, and this is what you should expect from that mother. And it's so painful when we grow up thinking that, when we're not getting it. But we have to know, as Louise Hay talks about in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, is our parents are doing the best they can with what they know and what they have at that moment. If they knew better, they would do better, right? That's just the truth of it. And when you begin to see, because I know that was transformative for me, when you begin to see your parents as two people who are doing the best with what they know, with what they have to share, coming from wherever their point of reference is, it's really easy to move into that forgiveness and just letting it go, because you're no longer holding on to the ideal, what we're told. I mean, the scriptures are beautiful in describing, and I'm going to share some throughout my talk, but we have to let go of the idea that that's about our biological mother, and just know that it's about Mother Earth. Because sometimes what we need is to get out there and do what's called grounding, right? We just need to move some earth, we need to take our shoes off, we need to connect with Mother Earth, because it's grounding. And not all of us had mothers that were grounding. My mother was very nervous and very fretful all the time. That's not a grounding feeling. So I don't think of going to my mother for a hug. This is how we hugged, you know, with that sort of air hug thing and air kisses, and, you know, it just, that's not a bad thing. It's the way it was. So if I'm going to look for that, I'm not going to keep going back to my mother. But I will tell you, I was in my 50s before I stopped, because the therapist asked me, why do you keep going back, looking for the same thing you've never gotten? And I'm like, oh. And I had to really look at myself and go, you know that I am doing that. I was telling myself I was doing it to be of service to her, but I was still looking for her to see me. And when I finally stopped looking for her to see me, she could. And she said to me one time, I don't think I've told you guys about this, she was in her late 80s, if not already 90, and she looked at me one day. I'd been making multiple trips back and forth to where she was living, and she looked at me and she said, "You're a very loving and generous and kind person, Beverly. However," it kind of erupted, and her face was sort of contorting. It was that spirit of truth coming from the center of her, but she didn't even know how to say it. And it was like, "You're very kind," and it just made its way out of her. And I watched this. And I just looked at her and I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that." And she said, "But you know you're so bossy." And we both died laughing. And I said, "I knew you were going to say that before it came out of your face." Because she couldn't just leave it with that. She had to take it back a little bit. But I will tell you, even in her late 80s, and not particularly prone to self-help, the next time I saw her, she just said that or something similar and didn't make a take-back statement. I have to tell you, I was proud of her as if she was my own child. And apparently, according to people who know all about that, we must have been doing this thing, over and over and over. But I was so proud of her that she allowed herself, because when you affirm someone, it feels good to them, but it feels even better to you for being the one who generated the gratitude and appreciation. So Mother's Day is about that, but it has an interesting history. So going all the way back to the Greeks and the Romans, they celebrated the goddess mother figures. Sybil and Ray were a couple of them that were mentioned in the research that I was doing. But then as this kept going and became, pagan rituals, like the Easter Bunny and all that, they have come from pagan and we've adopted them into Christianity. And that's exactly what happened with the whole Mother's Day thing, believe it or not. In the early Christian church, they had a Mothering Sunday, so they would come back to their original mother church.
Oh.
Yeah, and on the way, they would gather flowers and, pick wildflowers and things and bring them. And they would acknowledge their mothers, but it was more about the mother church. And then eventually, this day became acknowledged. Her name is Anna Jarvis. I can't have contacts in today, so I don't see as well. But she started in 1908 campaigning to have this be a national holiday. She'd lost her mother. She didn't actually have children and wasn't married, but she wanted to acknowledge mothers in honor of her mother. But what she started doing was having parenting classes for mothers to help mothers become better mothers. And then, of course, there was one point she did finally get Woodrow Wilson in 1914 to make it a national holiday, but she got so frustrated with it becoming a commercial holiday, as we know they all do if you allow them to be, but you have control over that no matter what marketing tells you. But she wanted to kind of take it back. She's like, it's not about all that. It's not about gifts and flowers and things. But it's only natural that it became about flowers predominantly because it's that season, right? Last week we talked about May Day, and Jeannie did a great talk about May Day and the friendship element of that. And, the maypole dance, where you think of little children with ribbons and little flower crowns, which Jeannie supplied us with those last week too. But that was, in some cultures, a fertility dance. Because it's spring and everything's blooming. So pagan rituals and Christian rituals and holidays, they just all kind of get mixed together. But here's the most interesting thing. Even before Anna Jarvis made this into a national holiday, there was a woman by the name of Julia Ward Howe. And she wrote in 1870 the Mother's Day Proclamation. And she wanted mothers to unite in world peace.
That we could make it happen.
And that's a callback to the goddess days of ancient, right? That women can influence world peace. Mothers in that bosom of love and gratitude and support and nourishing can bring upon world peace. And we can, actually. It's like that little ripple effect, right? Just one little pebble in the water ripples out. And you never should think of yourself as just a little stone, because you have that ripple effect. Whatever it is that you're doing, the opportunities that Pam brings to us for the Phoenix Center, I mean, that is a small group of women, but the ripple effect of the love that we put into the little plants last week, that when they receive them, they not only get a little piece of nature, they get the love that we sent along with it. But she was also, this woman was a force. She was an abolitionist and a writer and a lecturer.
That's amazing.
And she started the Women's Suffragette Association. And she was all about getting it done. And she even she wrote the words to the Battle Hymn of the Republic. So this woman was just all that.
Oh, wow.
I know, she had it going on. And so she really wanted women, mothers, to be acknowledged. But the whole thing about Mother's Day and flowers, and we all feel like we have to give flowers, but it's a part of this time of year. It's just the natural outworking of the cycle of life, which is also a very maternal experience, right? I mean, not that you have to have children. I don't have any. But there's still that natural cycle of life that's happening, and people come into your life, you nurture them, and then you let them go. Just like children, just like the women at the Phoenix Center. We're not here to nurture and cling and hold, and now you owe me because I did all this good stuff for you. We're here to nurture and release. Just continue the cycle of life and continue. And I love that flowers and just plant life in general show us that. As it all pops up in the springtime, I know a lot of us are suffering with the pollen, but it's a good kind of suffering because we know the bees are pollinating the flowers and we get to have all the beauty of the spring and the summer. In Genesis 3:20, it says, the man named his wife Eve because she was the mother of all living. The mother of all. You've heard that phrase, right? It's the mother of all trucks, or the mother of all experiences. I mean, it's a big deal when you say it's a mother of all. Now they say goat. Greatest of all time, right? It's the goat. They're the goat. That was the goat. But that's the same as the mother of all, right? It's a big deal to have that mother of all experiences. It's nothing to overlook. So flowers, the beauty of flowers is they all come with a meaning. I don't know. I didn't find enough research to tell me who started giving specific meaning to flowers. We know that sunflowers we see them everywhere right now because they're grown in Ukraine. They're the Ukraine national flower. And right now, sunflowers, I've always loved them, but now they evoke a different feeling from me, right? I want to go back to that mothers creating world peace kind of a feeling. But they particularly represent pure thoughts, adoration, and dedication. And this is really what we have to keep in mind when we want to create world peace. We can't be against someone and for world peace. We can't be against anyone. You can't be against Putin. You just have to be for Ukraine. Unless there's some out there that are for Putin, that's your own business. But in my mind, I am for Ukraine. but I'm not going to hold negative thoughts or harm or distrust or judgment against what's being done. I'm going to have compassion for what I consider misguided choices and all of these poor soldiers that are in the middle of something. But it's not a political talk. This is about flowers, and that they represent so many interesting things to us. In Proverbs it says, strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. Again, that positive idea, right? Strength and dignity. But you know what? Sometimes mothers aren't strong and they're not dignified. And they might be laughing for various reasons. But the point of this is that idea of the strength and dignity allows you the freedom to laugh at circumstances. Not laugh scoffing, but just know that there is better coming. There is renewal and regeneration, and there's something better coming out of it for you, for whatever it is that you're going through in the moment. Now, this is the pink azalea, which represents wealth and family and familial duty. So we love to have azaleas around the house, right? They just give us such beauty. But again, who decided what the meaning of the flowers are? You get to decide the meaning of anything in your life. That's why we call it metaphysical. It's beyond the appearance. What is the truth? And you know that from your Christ nature. You know that from deep within you, what the meaning of anything is, whether it's a trial or a tribulation, it's a decision you made, something that's happened, something someone said. Have you ever attributed a meaning to something someone said and realized later that wasn't even about you, it wasn't even directed at you, it had nothing to do with you, and you've been all wound up for all this time because you attributed a meaning to something that didn't have that meaning. So roses are, every color of rose has a different meaning. Isn't that amazing that we all are pretty familiar with most of these? We know that yellow rose is warmth and affection, right? If you've ever given or received a yellow rose, you might not want to give a red rose. Those men of you who've done this before, you might, I don't love her enough to give her a red rose, but I might give her a yellow rose. Or maybe I should give her a white rose, because that's pure thoughts. I don't want her to get any misguided. But we know pink roses are pretty harmless. They're grace and happiness and gentleness, as pink is soft and the coral one, that's an interesting wealth, family, and family duty. Coral is a good, strong color. It's not a show-off color, and it's not too soft. It's just a solid, representation. But Jeannie brought today for everyone beautiful red roses. And what do red roses represent? Love. And we often think it's romantic love, but it's pure love. It's love from the heart. So Jeannie, if you would like to share, this is not just for the women in the room. This is not a gender-specific idea of mother. This is the mother within you. And when you take that rose, let yourself say, either to Jeannie or to yourself, I honor the mother within me. I honor the mother, expressing as me. I honor the mother I am in this world. I honor the mother that I strive to be. I honor the mother that I see in the mirror, reflected back at me, which could be a good vision or not so good vision, depending on your day of the week. But we honor all of that. And the parts of you that show up as that nurturing, grounding, wonderful force for love, that's beautiful. But that part of you that's messy and slipping around, that's where we bring the compassion. We honor our messiness. we honor the and we give it compassion and our love. Thank you, Jeannie.
Oh.
So the safe bet for those of you who want to know, a mixed arrangement is always good because it has so many messages in it. You don't have to get worried about what kind of story you're telling. So we started with this when Jeannie read this earlier from Proverbs 31:26. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teachings of kindness is on her tongue. Maybe, sometimes, but not always. But we honor that. We love that we have these scriptures as a point of reference, and we also know that we are this. We are the mother that has the kindness and the wisdom, and we're also the messy mother. We're also the one that's not so strong and not so clear and sometimes needs to take a nap. That's always my answer. Take a nap. So, for Mother's Day today, I want to read you a brief poem. This is my favorite poet in the world right now. Her name is Shalane Harkin. So, Shalane is a young woman. She's a young mother, and she has a couple of young children, and she has been wanting to write poetry for years and studied poetry and has effort in poetry. And she tells this story, and you can find her interviews on YouTube, but she is a mystic in the vein of Hafiz and Rumi. And she began to take these evening walks with the consciousness of Hafiz and talking to Hafiz, and then suddenly she just started getting these downloads. And so she doesn't edit the poems once they come through, she just shares them. So this one is called Mother. Expand the word mother. Let it encompass the hills, the morning, that which feeds you. The hills, the morning, that which feeds you. Mother is much too big a word for one person alone to hold. Take it off her shoulders. Hand it to community. Warm baths, anything that soothes and restores. Healing is learning to know where to find the mother in her myriad forms whenever you need her. So there's always mother to be found, and there's always the opportunity to be mother. So during this upcoming week, expand mother. Listen to her poem. I'll share it with you if you want to read it over again. But get yourself quiet. Connect in with that divinity that lives within you. And ask, how can you expand mother? Feel into it. And then allow yourself, because when you ask the universe, when you ask that Christ consciousness, how may I expand mother? How can I be more present? If you really sincerely ask from the heart, ways will be shown to you. And all you have to do is step into them and trust that however you show up is the way it's meant to be. So try with that. And then we're going to close with this song, The Power of Women. Again, this is not just a gender thing. This is the power of the mother. Think of it that way. It's by Karen Drucker. So let's hold those tithes and offerings in our hand, whatever it is that you have to give today, and let's bless it. Divine love, ask me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. And let's add this. I send it forth with my blessings and my love. So we're going to close with a little bit different. We're going to close with the prayer of protection, but it's put to music. So feel free to sing along with it. It's a little bit dirgy,